Howdy, everybody. So about a year ago, I made an EVA foam prop of the Thundering Pulse bow from Genshin Impact. I was struggling to post this because I had a hard time calling it done. A lot of my 3D printing projects are very smooth and polished, and this bow feels like anything but that. I finally decided I need to take a step back and say, it's done, for the most part, and move on with my life. So this was intended to be a small art trade with a friend, but she never paid up, so now it's been suspended from my ceiling for over a year. It's a cool design, don't get me wrong. I'm happy to have it suspended from my ceiling. Anyway, my first attempt at using EVA foam was a gauntlet I made over a year before making the bow. Let's just say that I really threw myself into it without doing much research. No, EVA foam enthusiasts, please try to contain your screams of emotional anguish. In my less developed mind's defense, it was easier to keep track of the pieces if they were already in place on the foam. Now, my new approach to template making was simple, but done with much more research this time around. I used the website Wall Art Generator, linked below, to print out the bow at full scale, and then traced it onto the EVA foam. It was poor quality print-wise, and a bit hard to see the edges, but it got the job done, so everything was proportioned correctly. So here's me tracing and cutting everything with my favorite cat assistant. He helped greatly. The first clip is low quality because I actually set my phone to slow-mo instead of time-lapse, so it's honestly a miracle I have it at all since it recorded 3 hours of footage. The quality gets better though. Afterwards, I tried cleaning up the rough edges with a Dremel, and you'll sort of see a trend coming where I keep trying to sand things, and then these huge chunks of foam come off and inevitably make it worse. I mean, it wasn't all bad, but the edges did not look good. Eventually, I discovered our Lord and Savior foam clay. I was convinced all my problems could be fixed with foam clay, and I ordered a sizable amount to try and save my rapidly degrading foam disaster. Okay, maybe it wasn't that bad, but foam clay made it better, marginally. Right, so I also used the mini Dremel, I forget what it's called and I'm too lazy to Google it, to carve detail I needed into each section. Later you'll see me heating each part with a heat gun. That seals the foam, and then I glue them together with contact cement. Sorry the camera keeps falling. It's really annoying me while editing this, but I can't really do anything about it now. In my defense, it was early in my filming career, and it does get a bit better as I somehow mangle my phone onto a tripod with a bunch of duct tape. I feel like maybe saying early in my filming career insinuates I'm better at filming now. I'm not. I try, but I'm not. Anyways, sorry. Time-lapse music. Here is a wooden dowel. I'm showing you a wooden dowel. We're gonna glue stuff on that to make the handle. I tried PVC pipe at first, actually got a hacksaw out and cut a bit from the ceiling. It wasn't being used, don't worry. Anyways, that was too thick when combined with the foam, so wooden dowel it is. I'm also trying to make the circle piece in this part, and you're gonna hate what I do. Trust me, I hate what I did. I didn't want to waste any more foam, and I had a bunch of scraps, so both sides are just horribly shambled together. Right, so did I mention there were going to be LEDs? I got a couple strings cheap off of Amazon and routed it through the foam so all of the purple bits glowed in some way. I wanted to put something over it that would refract the light a bit more, but I couldn't find any substance that was flexible enough not to crack if the foam flex was clear and refracted light, and also optionally poured like a resin, so it would only settle in the purple areas. Anyways, no idea if that material like that exists, but I'm just gonna leave the LEDs exposed and get on with it. Okay, so our Lord and Savior foam clay finally makes an appearance. I'm using it to bulk out the shapes of the bow. Thankfully, it's very geometric and simple in its components, so overall it wasn't that difficult to sculpt. Funny enough, I'm using the hot glue to connect the wooden dowel and EVA foam. Probably should have found something better, but oh well. It always feels like I put in a bunch of work and then just do the final steps in hot glue. Anyways, back to the circle atrocities. I didn't film putting the pieces together with foam clay, but somehow it turned out well. Then I got some more detailing here, and right, yeah, the spiky bit on the bow I printed in transparent purple. Get a good look at this. My least favorite part of the project, because you will never see that piece looking that good ever again. Maybe it's my attempts to salvage it that just make it progressively worse, but I've already gone too far, and I'll show you why later. Anyways, more contact cement, more foam clay, all fun things. I have many small videos like that, so I'm just gonna keep that one in. Right, so there's my sculpting progress, and after I sand with 100 grit, really? Are you trying to demolish your hard work? This is what happens when you wait a year before posting a video. You learn new things and then cringe at your past self's inexperience with sanding. Oh god, I can't watch this anymore. So now, spray paint. This one's worse than the deer skull, 100%. I put a very liberal amount of Plasti Dip to seal the entire thing, which was okay, I guess. Might have put too much, but it wasn't that bad. Then I used some masking tape, which I guess looks interesting in photos, but This was probably the worst decision in the entire project, excluding the spiky bit. So the spray paint was a resounding failure, but when I went to take the tape off, pieces of my beloved foam clay started coming off in chunks. Now it's not all that noticeable, and I don't think you can point it out now, but I know, in my heart. Alright, anyways, as with the last project, we desperately fall back on acrylic in times of need. So there I'm doing my first pass. Honestly, I just got tired of painting this thing while recording because it's so big and difficult to keep in frame. So eventually, I just gave up. Anyways, now on to my worst crimes to humanity. The spiky bit. So I really wanted this thing to be semi-transparent because I knew it could be based on how the filament melted. It just wasn't because of all the layers. So I got my hands on some casting sand, like the ones they use in metal casting, and I essentially tried to set the piece in there and then melt it with a heat gun to join the layers together. Perfect plan, right? No, this was the worst fucking thing I could have done. You see, I was blowing air at sands. Tiny particles of sand while heating plastic. So now we had sand going places that sand should not be going, like plastic. Yeah, a bunch of it embedded itself in the plastic and I still can't get it out. I'm editing this right now and I was seriously convinced that I didn't get any footage of this, but I actually do have footage of me ruining this thing real time. Enjoy. Okay, well now this thing is no longer smooth, and I like it smooth at the very least. I just so happened to be getting some resin out to do a test for cold casting a small Boba Fett helmet, so it felt like an opportunity. I used the same purple paint I used to paint the rest of the bow, and I mixed it with a bunch of airbrush thinner to hopefully get something that would work with the resin. No, it did not work with the resin. Mistake number 1. The resin should have been heated with a heat gun to ensure that most of the bubbles were gone by the time it cured. I did not want to do that in fear of further warping the plastic, but it was stupid not to. Mistake number 2. The paint I used is acrylic, which I knew had the potential to react badly to both the airbrush thinner and the resin. What ended up happening is that it gathered in clumps despite mixing it up finely, and then it made the resin surface rough. So now I'm no closer to leveling this thing. There's air bubbles in it, and now it's got this weird texture to it. I'm leaving it and calling it an artistic choice. You can't save them all. I know that will make some people angry, and part of me is annoyed at myself for not trying harder, but it's been so long since starting this project and agonizing over it that I've just decided I need to present what I have. Anyways, I repainted the entire thing twice and then added shading in parts where it felt needed. It actually looked pretty good at this point, at least in my opinion. The color became less of a yellow and more of a beige, like the game model. All that was left was to add the LEDs to the circle area and fix the part hanging off the side. I carved a hole in the spiky bit for the battery pack, and then hot glued everything to the phone. Ta-da! It's done!